Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also, tuning in through our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, we're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, I know for our radio audience here in the South, we definitely know the weather is constantly changing at a rapid pace, and a lot of times it impacts not only, of course, what we're doing every day, but also the decisions that we're making as consumers as well. If you're curious about what the weather company is doing to be able to help us stay prepared, we're excited about this next segment for you guys. We're excited to welcome Dan Leonard to our broadcast today. Dan is the senior meteorologist at the weather company. He's going to talk to us not only about, of course, this changing weather and what it's been like for them to be able to see how things are changing, but also things that could help all of us when it comes to being prepared for it as well, whether we're talking about for a home or a business. Dan, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
Well, Dan, this is a topic that I know all of us across the country are definitely in tune to. We went from being in the teens here in the South last week to now, of course, being in the 60s this week. So definitely we are experiencing the swings for sure. What is it that we need to know, though, Dan, about what's causing these changes in the weather right now?
So you noticed that it was a little extreme. Okay, that's good. Well, this is really the number one question that I get asked. Is this climate change in action? And honestly, I can't say climate change is causing these crazy events, but what I can say is that, yes, we can expect these kind of events to be more frequent in our warmer climate. So down in the South, you've had a pretty mild winter so far. And then you get this extreme cold shot last week, and now we're right back into the mild pattern. But don't forget, this has been a common theme the last couple of years. Remember last year, same thing happened right around Christmas. We got really cold in those first few days leading up to Christmas. Happened again the year before that. Remember the real extreme cold shot we had in February with all those freeze problems, especially over in Texas. So right. I think this is sort of a common theme that we're going to have going forward. And if you think about it from a pure meteorological standpoint, it makes sense. You're adding heat to a system. That heat is energy, so it's more energy for the jet stream to work with. So while overall your winters tend to be warmer, once the jet stream is able to tap into some of that extra energy, you get a lot of amplification. So you get to tap into this really bitter Arctic air. So in general, going forward the next couple of decades, expect warmer winters overall, but you're still going to get these extreme cold shots. They're brief, but they're really intense. That's what I think will happen going forward.
And then, as we've seen, they definitely can be dangerous as well. Of course, there were some deaths here in the South as well that were contributed to the weather situations that we saw. And it does impact all areas of our lives, including, of course, our buying decisions as well. So consumers are definitely impacted. What are the areas, Dan, does the weather impact consumer decision-making that you've seen?
Yeah, it's funny. Let me take 55 degrees, for example. What does that mean for somebody in Mississippi? That's pretty cold weather for a high temperature. You might be wearing a jacket. But somebody up in, say, Boston, that's a warm day. You're out in shorts and a T-shirt. So these kind of analytics is what we do at the weather company. We take all this data and we crunch it. And we realize, hey, 55 degrees has different implications, where you live, what time of the year it is. And we drive these analytics, and we're able to figure out consumer behaviors that maybe you even yourself don't know that you're doing. In fact, a funny example I like to use is that in the West, foggy weather drives higher beer sales. For whatever reason, it just happens. So these kind of you can come up with some really interesting analytics based on consumer behavior in parts of the country based on weather patterns. It's just really interesting.
And then, again, these are things that a lot of times we don't think about because I think, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to think about it, we take so much for granted we don't realize the actual impact. But, of course, with especially here, again, in the South, when the weather is extremely cold, that affects, of course, our kids when it goes to going to school. Also, we had a lot of businesses that were impacted then last week as well. I'm sure our audience can definitely relate to that as well. So let's talk about businesses for a minute. How can business leaders adapt to what's happening with the weather and a better plan ahead when it comes to the weather?
Yeah, so as a business, doesn't matter if you're a small little mom and pop style business or if you're a big Fortune 500 company, either way, you need a good business strategy. I hear a lot of companies, they have a good business plan, they have a good business model, but where's the weather strategy? How many times have you heard a company blame their bad quarterly profits and revenue on an unforeseen weather event and their stock price plunges? Well, in this day and age, it's really not acceptable to blame the weather anymore for your corporate failings. And we have so much data available, and our forecasts are so good. They're so much better than they used to be. A 7-day forecast now is just as accurate as a 3-day forecast was 40 years ago. So our technology has come a long way. All the data is here, and companies really need to take advantage of that, come up with a good weather strategy, especially as climate changes more and more over the coming decades.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, Dan, if you don't mind, about the forecast, because I definitely can attest to that when checking it for myself. You know, it prepared for the last couple of weeks. It definitely has been very accurate. Talk to us about how we check especially the Weather Channel app, right? How it definitely has changed and what's helping you guys, of course, to make sure you're able to give a more accurate forecast.
Yeah, well, broadly speaking, the weather company is the largest weather company in the world. So we have a lot of resources to work with. We're partnered with IBM, so there's some supercomputing power that we can use to run the models. And we have a team of over 100 meteorologists on staff, a lot of experienced, grizzled Mets who are able to kind of massage and tweak the forecast and put the best product out there. So at the end of the day, the Weather Channel app, it's the most accurate weather app, and I'm not just saying that because I work there. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but independent studies have shown time and time again that it doesn't matter what metric you look at, we're the most accurate weather app out there.
Well, Dan, I definitely appreciate the work that you all do with the Weather Company, and thank you so much, of course, for helping to share this information with our audience. Again, everyone, Dan Leonard has been our guest, a senior meteorologist at the Weather Company, talking with us not only, of course, about the weather that we've been experiencing, but also what can be contributed to it, what we can expect, but also ways we can be able to prepare as well. Make sure you guys visit weather.com, of course, for more information about the great work they do at the Weather Company. And Dan, looking forward to our next conversation together.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
Hey, same here. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live, part of our Music and You segment here at WYAD. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's go make today amazing. Take care.